Did anyone else feel that Powell erred by using the same approach to combat inflation that former Chair Paul Volcker used in the 1980s? Cathie Wood believes that Powell made this mistake. Watch today's video. Ark Invest Cathie Wood huge update on major inflation downside. Cathie Wood on the Fed and economy. The Federal Reserve increased borrowing costs in the United States earlier than anticipated. Despite economists' expectations for a drop, consumer prices increased by 0.1% from July to last month and 8.3% from the previous year. Additionally seen were the service sector's rising inflation and a particularly alarming increase in rent prices, which tend to be sticky from month to month and make the Fed's work of controlling inflation all the more challenging. Consumer prices unexpectedly increased in August, while underlying inflation accelerated amid rising rent and healthcare costs, giving the Federal Reserve justification to announce a third interest rate increase of 75 basis points on September 14. Despite its slowdown in global supply chains, which had been a factor in a price spike earlier this year, the Labor Department's inflation estimates on September 6 were pleasantly robust. Inflation has likely not peaked because of the high wage growth supported by a durable labor market, which will keep the Fed's monetary policy active for some time. According to Cathie Wood of Ark Invest, the U.S. economy is most likely in a recession, which will reduce price pressures. According to her, supply chain problems that caused inflation to reach 40-year highs are beginning to cease, as evidenced by declining commodity and freight costs, steady gold prices, and other factors. According to Cathie Wood, a recession in the U.S. economy started when the GDP fell for 2 consecutive quarters. According to her, leading indicators have fallen for 3 months, supporting her theory. According to her, many people are concentrating on the significant increase in employment in non-farm payrolls when they should be looking at household employment, which is a far more extensive employment survey and has been flat to declining over the past 4 months. In addition, Cathie Wood cited firm layoff announcements and an increase in weekly unemployment chains that have been on the rise for the past 8 months as indicators that the economy is not keeping up with recent employment data. Wood claimed that the economy is sending her a lot of warning signs. However, she thinks that the economy will be recovering by next year. Furthermore, Wood stated that she anticipated the Federal Reserve to start implementing interest rate reductions in 2019. The troubled family of exchange-traded funds from Ark Invest has been particularly vulnerable to the sell-off of technology companies this year, which many have linked to an increase in interest rates. The revolutionary but frequently unsuccessful picks that make up Wood's investment approach fell off a chair in the first half of the year, causing the company's flagship Ark Innovation Fund to lose more than half of its value from the peak achieved in February 2021. With a rise of almost 17% over the previous month, Ark has recently recovered along with other battered stocks, but the fund's year-to-date performance has decreased by around 47%. Although Ark Invest performance decreased, the number of labor and other commodities, which will be discussed later, have risen. This channel is not a professional financial advisor or a source of financial information. Whenever you decide to invest, do your findings. According to Cathie Wood, inflation warrior Paul Volcker may have been mentioned twice by Fed Chair Jerome Powell. However, she believes that the two Fed chairmen are different, and Wood asserted that Powell was improperly using Volcker's sledgehammer. 15 years after the start of the Vietnam War and the Great Society, according to Wood, the Fed finally responded to inflation in a dramatic manner. She cited the commodity market as evidence that deflation is replacing inflation. According to her, the cost of labor, DRAM memory chips, and crude oil have all decreased significantly since the high in the price of gold more than 2 years ago. Wood suggests looking at gold's performance for a more accurate inflation measure. She notes that the price of gold shot up from $1,350 per ounce before COVID to a high of close to $2,000 in 2020. This means that in the year 2020, gold came to be a high-priced commodity. However, prices have since decreased and have almost reached $1,700. Cathie added that if inflated retail inventories and stock prices indicate employment rates and earnings, fears of cost-push inflation as witnessed in the 1970s should dissipate over the next 6 months. Businesses that can promote long-term growth are sought after by Cathie Wood's Ark Invest. Wood claims that the goal of the Ark Fund is to make investments in businesses that provide goods or services that have the potential to improve the planet. Although inflated retail inventories and stock prices indicate employment rates and earnings, interest rates worry Cathie Wood. Let's discuss that later. The most recent addition to 3 of its existing roles is one illustration of Ark Invest's unwavering faith in business engaged in innovation. A platform used by architects, graphic designers, and movie studios is Unity Software. Get Unity Software Inc. report. Get reports on Exact Science, a provider of at-home colon cancer screening tools, and Twilio, a market leader in-app communication solutions. Cathie Wood said, "Surround yourself with people trying to shape the future." The increase in interest rate worries Cathie Wood because it will make it more difficult for growing enterprises to grow. Reduced investment inputs and employment will result from higher capital costs. Thus, much innovation may be put on hold due to higher interest rates. Raising interest rates is one of the Fed's few instruments to stop spiraling inflation. But experts are worried that using this blunt instrument excessively could spark a destructive recession. Even though it's hard to say for sure, many investors agree with Cathie Wood's perspective. The Ark Innovation Fund has received approximately $2 billion in inflows, even though it is down 50% in 2022. That suggests many people are confident in Wood's arguments and perceive a buy-the-dip opportunity following the market's challenging few months. Our content is only informative. Before investing, do your research. Do not take anything we provide as investment advice. Cathie Wood has made her points very clear on inflation, which sounds like a warning to everyone in our next video. Everyone to be wiped out. Ark Invest Cathie Wood deflation warning.